What's up mga students? I am Nikolai, and today we're gonna talk about literature. Okay, so let's start first with the question, what is literature? And what is the nature of literature? So there are so many definitions of literature, and in this video I will give you 3 definitions. The first definition is literature as everything in print. So this kind of definition is associated with the history of civilization. Since historians are too much preoccupied with the diplomatic, with the military, and economic history, yung mga literary scholars, they try to invade the print landscape. So this is like a justification of the overlap between, literary studies and history. This kind of definition is actually discussed in the book of Warren and Wellick in their book, The Theory of Literature. And I would like to read, "The study of everything connected with the history of civilization does, as a matter of fact, crowd out strictly literary studies. All distinctions fall, extraneous criteria are introduced into literature, and by consequence, literature will be judged valuable only so far as it yields results for this or what adjacent discipline. The identification of literature with the history of civilization is a denial of the specific field and the specific methods of literary study." So this definition, that everything that is written can be considered as literature, is also problematic because ang ano nga dito, ang aking example is, for example, you want to go to the market and you write a list of the grocery or the things that you have to buy. So yung listahan na ba ito ay i-include na natin in the study of literature. So this one leads us to our second definition. And our second definition is that literature, or another way of defining literature, is to limit literature to the great books. And in this definition, literature is valued through its own artistic merits and intellectual distinctions. So when we think of literature, we think of the great books of history, like the origins of the origin of species, the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, War and Peace. All right, so these are actually great books of literature. However, this definition is also problematic because there are also some books, though they are not part of the literary canon, but can be considered as literature, like the book of J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. Okay, so this one is a very good book. In fact, ginawa nga siyang movie because of its popularity. All right, and maganda talaga yung Lord of the Rings. It's one of my favorite novels of all time. So this second definition is also problematic. Now, the third definition is that literature seems best if we limit it to the art of literature. Meaning in literature kasi, we are using a specific kind of language that is different from other kinds of writing, such as technical writing. In imaginative literature, we use connotative language. And connotative language is the product of, or the medium of creative writing. So ano bang example ng connotative language? For example, red. When you use red in creative writing, hindi siya automatically na magpo-point sa color. It may refer to something different, like passion, war, anger, what else? Blood. So marami siyang definition. While in technical writing and scientific writing, they use connotative language. So when they say red, automatically it may refer to, or it will refer to, the color red. So if we're going to use an analogy, yung connotative language is like a shotgun. Paspray yung kanyang putok. And then yung denotative language is like a sniper rifle na straight to the point, direct. Alright? So nagiging associated yung literature sa fiction. Literature as fiction. Meaning they are the opposite of reality. But the problem of this kind of definition, that literature is fiction, how about the biblical stories, right? For Christians, the biblical stories, such as the story of redemption, these stories are not really works of fiction, but these are factual and historical. We consider this as something true and really happened in the past. Hindi to isang kathang-isip lamang. Hindi to gusto ng mga religious people, because papaano yung biblical stories and other sacred stories in other countries, right? For them, these myths and mythological stories are not really works of the imaginations of man, but they're actually real. So what is the point here? So the point here is there's uncertainty in the definition of literature, since there are so many definitions. The point here is that that's the beauty of the field, that there is a lot of room for research. You have to realize that the study of literature is like this story. An individual living in a paradise-like island, surrounded by nature, and he's enjoying the scenery. And then suddenly this individual decided to become a diver. So lumangoy siya papunta doon sa gitna ng dagat, and pumunta siya sa ilalim, and he started to discover a lot of new things. At first, it's very rewarding and it's very exciting because ang dami mo nga namang bagong bagay na natutunan. Pero habang lumalalim ka, mas mataas yung possibility, mas lalong tumataas yung possibility na mamatay ka. So that person, kinakailangan niyang, he needs to go back at the surface of the ocean in order for him to live and appreciate nature once again. So it's the same thing in literature. So there's nothing wrong in studying the depths of literature, the extra literary, the philosophical part of literature, and sometimes we have to go deep. But we have to remember, we also have to appreciate the surface level, the aesthetics, because this is the only part of the ocean where we can really enjoy literature and at the same time live. Okay? If you reach this stage, it means that you like this channel. Kung hindi kayo nakatulog, you hit that subscribe button and watch out for my next videos. See you next time, and au revoir.